Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Fantasy Football Expo podcast series. And we've got two gentlemen who I highly regard in this industry, always have, always will. Sometimes they're my drinking buddies at 3 a.m. in Vegas, but that's another story we'll get to later. But I present to you the podfather, Mr. Matt Kelley and Billy Muzio, both of Player Profile. Gentlemen, how are we doing? To everybody where you're calling in from. We're all over the country here. So, Matt and Billy, thank you for coming on here and talking about what you guys got going on at the Expo this year and what else you got going on. But first off, let's just talk about where you're from and what you're up to.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Matt, go ahead.
Oh, back to me.
That transition.
Yeah, I'm in Connecticut, which has very few fantasy contests because it's like over $200,000 to get a license in Connecticut. So we're gonna try to lobby
a riffraff out, huh?
Yeah, lobby the legislature to change that. So that's not cool. But now we're excited to go to the Expo this year. It's my first Expo, so I'm psyched.
Awesome. Looking forward to having you. Billy, you're at the other side of the country.
Yeah, we are coast to coast here on the podcast. I'm over in Oregon, beautiful Bend, Oregon. And I've been to the Expo a couple times. Unfortunately, anniversary falls on it this year. I will not be attending. But for those who have not been, it is one of my favorite industry events that I love to attend. The price in which you're able to offer this thing, Bob, is just surprising, and quite frankly, it's crazy how it's that cheap for people to attend and have fun, and highly recommend it for those who have not been. And you can be, a site, you can be a listener, you can be just anyone who wants to attend, and it's fun to get to know people in the industry and say hi and attend this thing.
Well, I think it's a lesson for all conferences that if you make it accessible, then you're going to get more people coming, and then more people coming, they're going to have a good time. Then you're going to unlock network effects for your event if you actually make the price reasonable instead of just extracting the maximum you can from the corporate members that attend. That's a strategy. We could for supply and demand. We know the corporate customers will pay us X, so we're going to set the price here. And in the short run, we'll optimize our total revenue. But actually, in the long run, if you open it up and you let people talk and let people, share the great time they had the year prior, and it's accessible to a lot of people, suddenly, boom, 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 boom. What's happening is your attendance is going exponential because of that.
No, and thank you, and I appreciate the kind words. And that's what this was created for, really, in the first place. Was people had went to the Tony Romo one and various stuff like that, and everybody's like, we need one for us. 90% of the world in the fantasy industry, has a real job, does this on the side. It's a passion, it's a desire, whatever that is, and we don't have $2,000 to throw at a booth or $25,000 to throw at a sponsorship, and so. Now it also helps that I live in Canton, Ohio, which has a very low cost of living, which, allows us to keep that price down. And maybe I could charge more. But the point is that as long as I'm doing what I'm doing and I'm happy with what I'm making, and the more that come, the merrier. And I don't want anybody to go, well, I'd like to come, but I can't afford it. That's just, I don't want that to be an answer.
I think the bottom line is this is not a charity that you're running. You're actually doing something smart, and in the long run, I think you're going to make more money this way.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. But again, this is for the people, and the people come, and that's what makes me happy. So they come to Canton, Ohio, and enjoy the Pro Football Hall of Fame and the village that's being built around it, and it's just amazing. And next year, they're going to have their own hotel and a water park on the grounds beside the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So you have no excuse. All families should be coming. Bring kids, wife, whoever, wife, girlfriend, both, whatever you need to do, just bring them. We'll have a good time. So, all right, gentlemen. Well, let's get started here. Let's talk about, before we get into what you guys are up to and what's going to be happening at the Expo, let's talk about the history for both of you. When did the fantasy football bug bite you? What year was it? Who got you involved? Was it a relative? Was it a friend? Roommate, college, high school, whatever the case may be. So, Matt, we'll start with you before Billy says, yeah, and go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, I don't know. I think a lot of people started with fantasy baseball. So I started with fantasy baseball
Mhm.
league in 1999. Took over my friend's team because he went
Gotcha.
abroad, and he's like, I'm not going to be paying attention to start sit decisions. And, 7 o'clock at night, it's going to be, 2 o'clock in the morning where I am. And,
Right.
why don't you help me manage this team? And so I said, sure. And I picked up Rafael Furcal off the waiver wire. Guy stole 60 bases in the second half. We won the steals category. We won the league, and I was hooked. And the next year I tried a football league and ended up starting off with Marvin Harrison. And but I was really big on Tony
Junior.
Gonzalez. So I reached in quotes for Tony Gonzalez.
There you go.
It was one of the early my first sort of baseball instincts about putting a bit of a premium on third baseman and shortstops that can hit. I was like, man, if I can get this kind of production out of the tight end position, this is going to be an advantage.
Right.
So, and then, fast forward, my first fantasy article I ever wrote was about drafting Rob Gronkowski in the first round.
There you go.
And then now then I thought, okay, well, that didn't work out. That was all, maybe that was, and then a couple of years ago, it was all about Travis Kelce in the first round, if you remember.
There, yeah. Right.
So that it's an enduring strategy if you can get the absolute sort of super leverage at the tight end position, draft him in the first round.
Yeah, I got you. Billy, talk about your beginnings, how you got started, when, and who kind of brought you into it.
Yeah, so I was actually just after Matt 2000, and it also was baseball. I mean, the Pedro Martinez, Randy Johnson, Greg Maddux pitching days.
Mhm.
The chase of the home run records between Sosa and McGuire, and we had a group of us that played every year in baseball, and then slowly transitioned into football. And we actually had a home keeper league for about 15 years that just kind of recently disbanded. But that same group of guys that played baseball for years together kind of went into the football scene and started playing. And then it just became more readily available with, sites like the FFPC and then, ultimately Underdog. But I started playing high stakes shortly after I got married. I was winning a bunch of home leagues, and then I said, I'd love to be able to play against other people who win a lot as well, and maybe for more money, and kind of started playing for $350 a team, buying a 3-pack and then rolling over winnings. And the next thing I know, I had a bankroll and I was playing, a bunch of high stakes fantasy football, and it's kind of how I made it into the industry. And so I guess kind of a player's dream, becoming a player first and then being able to do content and talk about why you love football and why you're doing what you're doing, and then rolling it over here into rankings and projections and analytics, and then now working with Matt over at Player Profiler.
Yeah, no, great stuff. So I have to ask: are either one of you still playing fantasy baseball?
I do not anymore. I don't think I'd sleep because I was even more hooked on baseball.
No, I know, because I was there too, and I don't either. Matt, do you still play?
No, I don't.
Okay. All right. That's fair. All right. That's great. And great stories for both of you. I know you guys have both been around quite a while now. Talk about how all of this now has grown into what you guys are doing together today, and how that kind of rolls into, where, towards the expo.
Well, early on, you're a lot of those baseball principles and Moneyball principles led me to creating the Player Profiler site, which was essentially something similar to Fangraphs for baseball. There would be a lot of free stats for people, free advanced metrics that could help them make better decisions, when they're fantasy draft and with trades. And I thought that there would be sort of an equal amount of interest between fantasy gamers and just, stat heads and fans. But as it turns out, when I rolled out Player Profiler, it was 100% fantasy gamers that wanted to check it out. And then I started doing a podcast to kind of explain what the stats are and how to use them and what their significance is. It was super bookish. And then eventually I loosened up a little bit after, 30 episodes in. And then, as soon as I started not to care as much and kind of be myself a little bit more and add a little hijinks to the show, started to get some momentum. So then people would find the podcast, then find the website, or find the website and then find the podcast, and kind of built on itself for, now it was our 10th anniversary. It's pretty crazy.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Great,
Yeah. Pretty amazing.
Billy?
Yeah, it's just a fun journey. I mean, I remember the first podcast I did was about 4.5 years ago. And it started off as a way for me to write off beer and talk football with my friends. I have my other business. And so we were, marketing through it.
Yeah,
and,
right.
And then, I was doing spreadsheets. I was always a numbers guy and doing the spreadsheets for my own projections for my own interest in high stakes football. And then, realized I was doing well with it. And then Bradley Stalder, who's, a friend of mine and who was my first podcast partner, was like, hey, we should do these projections, and give them out to the public. And I was like, okay, yeah, why not? we're already doing them. And then, so we did, and we tried to enter the Fantasy Pros contest, and we were told, best of luck. You haven't been published for 2 years. And if you do them for 2 years, you can come back. And so, we did them for 2 years. We came back, and the first year I was able to enter is when I won the competition, actually.
Nice.
And so then, next year, which was, 2 years ago now, I was finished 4th in season and realized I was pretty good at doing these projections and rankings. And then kind of carried it over with, drafting and then, working here at Player Profile, doing the rankings and projections here, and then into, our current project. And so it's been kind of a blessed journey and very excited to be able to do what I love every day and to sit back and talk football with friends.
Yeah, no, that's great. Great. So as we head towards the 2023 or 2024, geez, I'm way off. 2024 Fantasy Football Expo. Now I know, Billy, you've been there, but you're not coming. Matt's never been there and is coming. So Billy, why don't you tell a little bit about your, history of what you saw? I mean, you guys mentioned quite a bit at the beginning, but, talk about maybe some other things, maybe even more towards the education aspect of people coming there to learn from, the best of the best like you and Matt will be coming this year, and what you saw. And then we'll kind of go to Matt and what he's heard from the outside looking in.
Yeah, I'd say when I first came in, I had no expectations. I didn't know what to expect. I knew there was booths. And I knew there was.
And what was your first year?
That was so it's been about 3 years ago now, 2021.
2021. Okay.
Yeah. And so didn't know what to expect. I think there's a few hundred people there.
500.
Yeah. And then the second year it grew even more.
Yeah. 750. Yeah.
And so it was a pretty big size. I remember, first and foremost, book your hotel the day it comes out, because that thing will be booked.
It's fun.
So if you haven't attended and you haven't booked yet, good luck. But you can get an Airbnb or something else. But the booths are great, and quite frankly, I mean, the education is there, and the breakout sessions are awesome. But I like networking, and that's the biggest things about these events inside the industry. Whether it be the expo or it be the FSGA, these things are great for people to come together, network, and it can be in the industry, it can be outside the industry. There's so many opportunities for people to connect to these things. And that's the main reason why I went the first year, was to network. All the sessions and everything were great, just additions, to the package. And ultimately the reason why I came back was, again, for the networking and to see people. And then, it's nice to pop in a session and listen to things and to get a different perspective on something else. And so love that fact of it, but you can't beat the networking effect that you get with hundreds of people there in the industry.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks. Matt, talk about what you've heard from the outside, other than Billy, from Twitter or just other people in the industry, and what excites you about coming to your first expo this year?
Yeah, it's a fantasy football event for the people. I think people love that there's a lot of drafting that happens there. There's sort of a flag football, actual sports events where people can play
cornhole, which is kind of sports.
Cornhole, and some of the stuff is happening outside. So you have an opportunity to go to the Hall of Fame. I've already been to the Hall of Fame. I went to the Hall of Fame in 2000.
Okay.
2000. So that was.
It's changed in 20 years.
I'm sure it's not what it was. It was cool then. Right. Yeah, it was cool then.
It's even cooler now.
Yeah, I'm sure there's way cooler, but it's a special place. So you have an excuse to go to a special place that's football related. It's kind of perfect, right? And then who would have thought like a DoubleTree hotel is like the hardest place to book in
Well,
the
it's the
world?
nicest hotel in town, so yeah, it kind of
I
is.
mean, typically, you know,
Right.
the DoubleTree is generally in most towns available.
Yeah, right.
So you know, I'm still having, it's still a little bit of a getting used to the whole thing, but
Right.
everyone says, hey, this is so much fun. It was so cool to see so many people. And what I mentioned earlier was because literally everybody can go, it makes it so that you see people you wouldn't normally see.
Right.
And I was going to be the biggest one so far. I don't know. I'm thinking about it. I don't know what the fantasy football events were like, say 10 years ago, like the absolute peak of DFS hype. But I'm guessing this event is going to be one of, if not the highest attended fantasy football events ever, because it's going to be clearly your biggest event. And I just looking at the expo hall and hearing from who's coming, you know, I think this is you're kind of you're marching toward history here.
Never thought of it that way, but thanks. I'm just glad that.
Am I wrong, Billy?
So interestingly enough, I was writing for Roto Experts back in 2011 and 12, and they actually put on an expo at the Atlantic City Convention Center back then, and they were the ones who put it all together. And it was a nice event, but the problem was they also did autograph signings in the back with former Jets and Giants and that kind of stuff. And the sad thing was, and I think Jeff Radcliffe has told this story, him and Mike Clay were on stage to do a panel, and there were 4 people in the audience. And the reason why was most people that came in, there were certainly a few fantasy people, but most of them came in the door, walked past the booths, got their autographs, and walked right back out. And you know, so yeah, I learned some things of what not to do, and that was definitely one of them. And I've had people go, well, why don't you have, you know, Hall of Fame? Why don't you have Hall of Famers come and sign autographs? I'm like, no, because I saw what happens when you do that. It becomes an autograph session, and that's not what this is about. This is about us. This is, you know, now if one of them show up, who might argue, right?
Well, Roto Experts, it does not exist anymore.
Right. No, because they're now Sports Grid, or at least kind of sort of Sports Grid. But yeah, they all kind of fell off. But yeah, no, you know, Paul Chargian talks about he did 5 years worth of an expo, I guess, in the mid 90s in Minnesota. And so it's been done, you know, and like
someone's doing it right. And it's that guy in Canton.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Yeah, we keep growing it. But so guys, talk about now you have a booth. You're one of the VIP booths this year, which we're excited to have you. Talk about what you guys are going to be promoting at the expo this year.
Well, I just ordered the tablecloth, the banner, the handouts, we're a little tote bag. Nice. So I just ordered all that stuff. And I did the proofs, and you know, shout out to Jason Allwine here, helping design all the artwork and whatnot for it. So it's exciting. We have a new fantasy platform that we're rolling out called Fast Draft, and it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. It's in. I got
to hear the pitch you guys made at the FSGA. It's a very cool product, folks. You're gonna love it.
Yeah, so it's still in sort of the alpha test, and it's not right. It's not quite ready for public consumption quite yet. We're still dialing a few things in, getting a few more state licenses in. We're already, I think, going to be live in 30 plus states.
Please tell me Ohio is one.
Ohio. We're live. We're going to be live in Ohio. We're live in Arizona. Live in a bunch of states. We're waiting on a couple more. And so, yeah, we've been doing a lot of things in parallel to build this battleship, right? And then we're gonna, you know, send it out to sea, and we're gonna see what happens. But it's exciting. There hasn't been a new fantasy app that's come out in quite a while, at least one that has traditional drafting. There are some aspects that aren't traditional, and you'll have to check it out to find out what about it is new, innovative, cool. I fundamentally believe there's a lot of room for a lot of new features and functionality in the space, and there's been a lot of focus on pick'ems and prop style fantasy for a few years, and I think that cycle is coming to a close, where you have like an underdog and a prize picks that have really started to dominate that space, and now the question is what's next. And so I think we're happy to kind of throw our hat in the ring and be a candidate for what's next.
Got it.
Yeah, very excited for this to launch, and to Matt's point, 32 states and jurisdictions, including Washington D.C. And so we put a lot of effort on the back end of regulations and compliance and getting this thing ready for launch. And Matt and I are both very meticulous when it comes to user experience and the UI, and it shows in the app. It's beautiful. And coming from the drafting world, I wanted to ensure that we had tools that would appeal to people who are mass entering, and that would appeal to them to be able to make their lives easier and to make their tools, their tips a little bit more functional. So I'm excited for this thing to come to life and come to market soon.
Yeah, people don't like slow drafts, generally speaking. They do them out of necessity.
Right.
But ideally, if you had time or you had the inclination or whatever it was, or you had the ability to actually do 150 entries, you wouldn't have to enter any slow drafts. And so that the app came about from the sort of thought experiment of, well, what if you couldn't slow draft? What if there was no such thing as a slow draft and there were only fast drafts? How would you do it? How would you do it where in a way that would appeal to people today, where everything is, a little less, like attention,
right.
Attention span, a little more of a need for speed and mobile first, right? So it's going to be first and foremost a mobile app, so that's what we did. You'll see more to come.
Awesome. Now, very important question: with you coming to your first expo, Matt, as the Podfather, are you worried about groupies and how many autographs you're going to have to sign while you're there? Because you're a celebrity in this industry, as the 38,000 followers shows here on Twitter. Are you concerned about, are we going to need to have extra security? Your thoughts?
Well, I thought you put the kibosh on the whole autograph sessions, so I think you learnred your lesson on that.
Free is free. I mean, what you do in your own time is fine. we're going to have any organized ones. That's all.
I've talked to some people that I haven't met yet, that I only know through Twitter or through doing shows with them. So it's exciting. I am. I'll be very recognizable, and excited to talk to people. It is cool when it's a fun experience when you're in the airport or something, and someone comes up to you and be like, "Hey, I love your fantasy football show." That's a really cool feeling.
No, yeah, I know. I've had people early on in the expo come up to me with my book, and they're like, "Will you autograph my book?" And I'm just like, "What?"
Oh, hey, Billy, I should give away 10 copies, autographed versions of the Dynasty Dominator.
You should bring them to the booth.
I should.
Yeah, there you go.
Dynasty Dominator should give away some copies.
And you should let people know you'll sign like 3 babies. So up to 3 babies, you'll sign it for you.
That's it. Yeah, no more than 3.
What a great idea.
I want people to use that privilege, man. I love it. All right,
sign
guys.
Copies.
Wow. Yeah. Those will go on eBay like that. They'll be right there.
They got to promise to give out at least like 10 of our flyers. If you make that, you just gotta pinky swear you'll do that.
I love it. Well, gentlemen, thank you for being a part of this. I'm so excited about Matt coming to town. Billy will miss you, but happy anniversary in advance. I know you'll be back again. But we'll start with Matt. Matt, tell people all your good stuff, where to find you, all that happy thing.
Just go to playerprofiler.com, check it out if you haven't already. And I'm on Twitter at fantasy_mansion. And definitely check out Player Profiler on YouTube. You're probably watching this on YouTube anyway. So you're subscribed here. Also subscribe to Player Profiler. We're putting out new shows daily. Best ball, dynasty, high stakes. Bada bing, bada bing, bada boom.
Love it. Billy, tell everybody where they can find you.
You can find me in the woods in Oregon. I shave, but it might be a little easier to find me now. But you got rankings and projections over at Player Profiler, of course, Twitter at FF Muzio. And to see all of our, live shows, you can go to the podcast and streams tab at the top and see the entire menu that we have over at Player Profiler.
All right. Well, gentlemen, thank you again for being a part of the show. Very honored to have you. We'll see you in August. So for Matt Kelley, Billy Muzio, I'm Bob Lung with the Fantasy Football Expo. When I hit this button, you'll see all the things to follow for the Expo, and then we'll take it out. Take care. God bless. We'll see.